All right, folks, welcome to Duckpin TV's coverage of the 2024 Frank Barber Memorial Eastern Classic. We're coming to you from Lucky Strike Lanes in Mansfield, Connecticut. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. This is Brian Ewing, and I'm joined by Pat Rufo.
Good afternoon, Brian.
We're working with a bit of a skeleton crew this year, so we'll try to keep you abreast of the top four at all times. And we'll do our best to bring the action around the center. But as you can see on your screen right now, we have a leader in the clubhouse, John Blaze. He rolled this morning, totaled 1791 for an average of 149.3 over his 12 games.
And we have a few bowlers on this shift that are pretty much on or beyond that pace. So we will get to that point in the afternoon where that narrows down probably to 3 or 4 guys that we can focus on camera-wise, keeping the Blaze score that, that's the good one, Brian. Having it in the clubhouse is always, to me, I would think that's always a bonus. But you got some big shooters coming behind you.
Absolutely, and one of those big shooters is John Green. He'll be sliding over to lanes 3 and 4 in just a moment.
Found out some disturbing news. Seems that there's one pair that's bowling bowler for bowler instead of ball for ball. So they were actually 3 boxes behind the pace of the teams in front of behind them. So that's probably going to be occurring throughout the afternoon, I'm guessing.
All right, pacing is always a challenge in a big tournament like this. Absolutely. And just another challenge that John Green and others will have to deal with as they try to hit that and surpass John Blaze's number of 1791.
And I've already talked to a few of the bowlers behind that group, and they've already started to adjust their pace of play so that they can kind of stay on a more consistent pace rather than have a 10 or 15-minute gap in between games, which nobody wants to do.
So we've mentioned John Green a couple times. His group is just getting ready to start here. He rolled 931
to start the tournament yesterday.
Yes.
And so far this afternoon, he's already beyond that pace. He's averaging almost 150.
Yeah, we were sitting here just a couple moments ago as he was wrapping up game number 8. Somehow he left the 1-5-7-10.
Yeah, we're trying to figure out how he left it, but he almost made the darn thing.
Yeah, it was pretty impressive.
Pretty wild shot. He sent that 1 pin flying around, and it took out everything except the 7. So we've had a few big scores this morning, including last year's the defending champion from last year is off to a 157-153 start this afternoon. So, those are the numbers he's got to put up because, as you can see, the John Green average right now is 157. And so we do anticipate that average may come down, but you never know. John has been very, very consistent. 2 monster games yesterday in the 80s. He had a 3-game stretch where he was 530. So he had a big 3-game stretch to get to that 931. So if you think about that, he had 530 for 3 and he only had 400 for the other 3. So we'll see what John can do coming in now with a 69-39. So he's at 308 through 2.
Speaking of John, he's on the left of your screen in the Vineyard Vines shirt.
Very distinct delivery from John. Very deliberate.
Off the side there, he'll be shooting 1-3-6-7.
This kind of shot where John just wants to make sure to get 3 and hopefully one of those pins comes over and does their work. But that's not going to happen if you go through that hole. So he's just going to try to recover some wood here, and he'll move on to the next box and just shake it off. It doesn't really, usually doesn't affect him all that much. He's a very, very low energy. You don't see a lot of emotion, but he throws a very, very consistent ball. So really interesting to watch the younger guys, him and Colby, putting up the big numbers. And Colby's still in the running this year. He's still in the hunt, but he's going to have to come up with a couple of big, big games real quick to put himself up where John is right now. And of course, we know he's capable of doing that. And last year's defending champion Wayne Matheson is coming off a 310. So, and he's also down here with us. So we could be looking at a couple of our leaders right in front of us on lanes 1 through 4 right now.
Yeah, Wayne Matheson is just off camera. He's bowling on lanes 1 and 2. Might be able to just catch a glimpse of him on your screen every so often. But if I remember correctly, Pat, it was last year, just on these set of lanes here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, that Wayne Matheson locked up the tournament.
And let me tell you, I talked to Wayne earlier this morning when he was coming off of the 157 and 153, and he said, "I'm going where I like it." So he knows, he remembers.
Yeah. Another bowler to mention here, we have Steve Dreyer. He's the one just setting himself in the center of your screen now. He has 1178 through 8 games for a 147 average pace. So he's just off the top 4 leaderboard we have here.
And ultimately, these guys got to get to basically a 149 point something pace in order to catch Johnny Blaze. So that's the number that will become the most important as the afternoon wears on.
And here's John Green again, trying to come back from the 7 in the first box.
And once again off the side, the other side this time. So far in this game, John's been a little bit off the headpin.
Again, we mentioned Wayne Matheson. If you look to the far left of your screen, he's up in lane 2. He's on a strike in the first frame.
Yeah, I remember that last year, Brian. All of a sudden, we weren't even talking about Wayne Matheson, and then boom, he just ran up the leaderboard real fast.
Yeah, you throw 3, 4, 5 strikes in a row, and that can happen. As we see John Green there, he finishes with 9 in frame 2. He has 16 after 2 frames.
Matheson does not catch the flyer. Got a little light on that 4-pin, and looked like he might have a chance of catching the 7, but did not hit that clean.
Well, we've got a quick break here in the action directly in front of us. We'll tell you a little bit about Jimmy Mulvihill's weekend thus far. His first block, he rolled 898, so just shy of that 900 mark. Mulvihill rolled 146, 199, 173, 158, 121, and 131. Sorry, that was for 928. 928. I was looking at the wrong score.
Yeah, Jimmy with the 199. That's there's only been one 200 game this weekend, Brian.
Yeah.
In the entire tournament, actually. So 2 weekends, 1 200 game.
Yeah. Well, it's like this house plays. You roll 2, 3, 4 strikes, and other bowlers are not going to do that. So,
No.
If you can manage to do that once, or you grab 4 in a row, you might not get to the 200 mark, but it's going to
it gives you at least
give some
chance.
distance between you and the rest.
It's like my tournament this morning. I didn't get my first strike until the 25th box, and then they just started coming. Like, where were these? Like, where were these all the last 8 games? But you just never know.
Yeah, and it's a challenging tournament. You have to bowl on all 20 lanes here, and they're all very, very different. The first 8 lanes play very different. They're the
Yes.
original wood from
Yep.
almost 100 years ago now.
Oh yeah, a long, long time, and there are some dead spots for sure. And you hit one, you know it.
Here's
Ball
John
takes some
Green
pretty funny hops.
on lane 3. Matheson's also up at the same time on lane
And
1.
again, John Green with the third box in a row off the side, this time for 5.
Matheson on 1 breaks 9, so he'll be shooting at the 4 pin for a spare. Matheson covers his spare, so he has 39 plus through 3, and John Green gets a nice mix there. Got to be honest that he didn't hit that well, but that'll get him to 26 through 3. No, I'm sorry. I believe that'll get him to 25 plus through 3. It's a little difficult, folks, to see all the scores here. We're using, as you can see on your screen, old telescores from the 70s. And it's a very sunny day up here in Mansfield, Connecticut. The basketball capital of the world is what we like to call it around here. So there's a little extra glare up on those screens this morning. This afternoon, actually. It's 2:30. Again, thanks for tuning in this afternoon. Duckpin TV's coverage of the 2024 Frank Barber Memorial Eastern Classic. If you managed to catch the link to the stream, please feel free to share it with your friends and fellow Duckpin bowling fans. We're working with a bit of a skeleton crew this year. So it's just Pat Rufo and myself. So Pat's out and about trying to gather some scores and some intel for us as John Green rolls on lane 4. Had a rough start to the 9th game here.
Man, that
has been off the head pin 3 frames in a row. And this one he's in the pocket, but ringing 7-8.
Yeah, that was not quite clean 7-8. There was a deadwood spinning, but not anywhere near the 7 or the 8 pin. So he's got to just reset himself here and try to get this game back under control.
So 44 through 4 frames for John Green. He's got a little room.
He picked up that nice split in the third, and then you figure, oh, yeah, back on pace, but then, boom, you get that 7-8 right in your face.
Yeah. The good thing here is he has a little room,
He's got
wiggle
some
room to play
he's
with.
got wiggle room, yeah.
All right, so
He can afford, a couple of bad boxes here and there.
yeah, not for too much longer.
No. As we said, as the afternoon wears on, that John Blaze number probably is going to start to become talked about more and more.
We've got our defending champion on lane 2, so he'll come into your screen. There he is.
Hey, he likes that lane. Oh,
I'm having a little deja vu here, Pat.
yeah. I mean, last year we were down, set up in the middle of the house, and all of a sudden there was a lot of noise coming from this end of the building, and we found out real quick why. Ray Matheson likes this side of the house. He likes these old wooden lanes, doesn't he? Ooh. Colton Goo, not so much on that one. Holy moly. Another 7-8. But that's off screen over there on the far left.
All right, so here we go, lane 3. John Green, 44 through his first 4 frames of Game 9. He is our current leader, at least as far as we can tell, based on average, 154.9. There he is in the Vineyard Vines shirt. Off the head pin the first 3 frames, was in the pocket in frame 4, but left the 7-8. This time he's a little light, but at least on the head pin. He'll be shooting at the 5 in the corner there.
Just went and checked a couple of bowlers' scores that are in the leader territory, and Steve Dreyer in his 9th game of this tournament is off to a 47 in the 3rd start. So he's off to a fairly decent start. I'm going to go down and check on Jimmy Mulvihill in just a few moments.
That's Steve Dreyer on lane 5. It's the tall one there to the right side of your screen. In our view is Wayne Matheson on lane 1. You'll just see him as he approaches the foul line. He's on a strike.
Oh, my goodness. Here we go. It's the Wayne Matheson 1 and 2 show again.
Wow. So for Matheson, he has 49 through 3, and then
On a double.
strike.
It's funny, Brian. He remembers last year, so there's a confidence level. As he left 19 and 20, he said it out loud. Now I go where I know I can bowl. So he remembers that very distinctly.
And Matheson, 868 for his first block of 6 games, 157, 153. So if he's making that turn, he's saying, now I can actually bowl.
Right, and he averaged 55 to start the morning, and he wasn't on the top of the leaderboard, so to speak, but in essence, he was only 60 pins back, which over 6 games, you can make up 10 pins a game. You can make up 20 pins in one game.
Sure, and if you turn this double into 3,
Yeah,
4,
he can make
5,
up 40 pins in this
who
game.
knows, yeah. All right, John Green again on lane 5, 54 through 5 frames. Missed the pocket the first 3, in the pocket the last 2. Not
There's the
best
ball we were
breaks.
waiting for right there. All right, he needed one of those to get this game rolling.
As always seems to be the case at the Eastern Classic on this final Sunday afternoon. All the bowlers that we have our eye on seem to be up at the exact same time. So again, we're watching Wayne Matheson. He's on lane 1, the very, very far left of our screen. You can barely see him when he's up, but we'll give you an alert so you can keep your eyes peeled.
Okay, we have a major update down there. Jimmy Mulvihill, who we have well up on the leaderboard, has started his 9th game with a 10 box, a spare, and a 4-bagger.
Well, we were just talking about if you can string 4 or 5 strikes together, that'll really separate you from the field. So
The only thing I'm a little concerned about is whoever's keeping score filled in the triple, which some people do not always appreciate. But automatic scoring, it fills in the triple anyway, so it doesn't matter.
if you know duckpin bowlers, we're a superstitious bunch, many of us.
Very superstitious. I've never wondered that superstition, though. I mean, don't you want to see the 30 pins? I mean, it's like, I got 30 pins. Just put them on the board.
So again, Steve Dreyer up there on lane 5.
Nice
Wayne
ball.
Matheson.
And you got a little sweeper.
Wayne Matheson will be up on his double on lane 2. And John Green will be up shortly on lane 3, I believe. So we don't have a camera down on Jimmy Mulvihill, unfortunately. Again, working with a skeleton crew, just Pat, Rufo, and myself. So Pat's going to head down, at least give us a audio version of Jimmy's next frame as we watch Wayne Matheson on lane 2. He'll be coming into the left of your screen on a double, defending champion. He rolls. Make that 3. Wayne Matheson, defending champion, starting to make his move here in 2024. John Green on lane 3 there, through the middle, manages to get some pins to come back. So he'll be shooting a challenging split. He's going to have to start stringing some marks together this game. He'll be somewhere in the 70 range through 6. And make that 71 through 6. And 80 through 7. So if you've just joined us, Duckpin TV's coverage of the 2024 Frank Barber Memorial Eastern Classic. John Green is the leader by average through 8 games, as far as we can tell. He's struggling a bit in game 9. Our defending champion, Wayne Matheson, is making a bit of a move. He's up on lane 1 once again, being the far left of your screen. He's on the approach, rolling. He was on 3 strikes in a row.
Excuse me for a second,
ringing
Brian.
7 pin.
Jimmy Mulvihill is about to throw his next box on lane 14. He is currently on a 4-bagger.
Again, Pat's down there. We don't have a camera on Jimmy. Matheson gets his 7 to make that 138 plus through 7 frames for Matheson.
He definitely took his time on this one, thinking about this next ball. He is on the approach.
This is Jimmy Mulvihill.
If you hear a loud roar in a minute, you'll know. And off the side of that, that's 6. So he left the triangle and 1. But still, off to a really good start this game.
Green up on lane 4 there. Converts. So that'll bring him to 90 plus. No, I'm sorry, that was his 3rd ball. So he's just at straight 90 through 8 frames. So unless he maybe throws a double to end this game, Green will be moving down. Mulvihill will be moving up. And then Matheson, look out behind you, Jimmy Mulvihill. The defending champion is coming.
He's a 138 and a ball in the 7th? Or is it, yes, is that the 7th?
Yeah, 138 plus in the 7th.
Wow.
Let's do some quick math here, Pat. Jimmy Mulvihill, 133, 161 to start the day today. That's 294 for 2.
On pace to go 170 here at this point. I mean, 4 baggers add up real fast.
So we're looking at a 460, 470 start, maybe more for Mulvihill.
Matheson's on pace to have more than that. Matheson started the day with a 310, and he's well over that pace right now in this game. Matheson has an outside shot at hitting a 500 set here. A couple more another strike or 2 here and there, and he's got a chance to get to 190. He doesn't even need a double to get to 200.
And here he is, Wayne Matheson. He's going to be entering the left of your screen on lane 2 shortly. He's on a spare in the 7th. 138 plus, whatever you can get on this first ball.
Man, oh man. Wayne Matheson's locked and loaded right now. There's a violent ball, too. He gets a juice behind it. John Green got away with that one. Gets everything but the head pin. Matheson not missing much right now.
That's 157 plus
In the
a ball. 8 frames.
So he's plus 77 with a hit, with 2 frames to go.
Saw Green convert the head pin. So that'll be 100 plus through 9 for Green. Trying to minimize the damage of this game for him. He'll be moving down the leaderboard. Jimmy Mulvihill certainly will be moving to the top of our live leaderboard. But again, they're all chasing the score of John Blades. He rolled this morning, 1,791 for a 149.3 average.
Quick Jimmy Mulvihill update. He's at 154 through 8. So not terribly far behind Matheson, but Matheson's 3 pins ahead of him and on a mark. So he will make up some ground if he marks out for sure.
Yeah, we're only talking about a margin of around 40 pins.
It's not a huge difference. I mean, he's going to pick up that many on Johnny Green this game. So we're going to see a significant narrowing of the gap.
So again, that's John Green on lane 4. Matheson is on lane 1. Again, the far left of your screen, working on a spare. Puts it in there for 2.
So Matheson with his first hiccup in a while on this pair. Rips off the side for 2. Green with a fairly heavy pocket hit and can't carry the 8 drop.
Matheson chops again. So he's going to have to clean some things up here on lane 1. And that is a 5 for Wayne Matheson.
Yeah, Johnny Green just finished with a 117. So rough game, but he's got 3 to go, and he had a little bit of an edge. So.
And look at it this way: he's still averaging over 150.
Yeah, that's the number. That's the magic number.
So he's done enough so far that maybe he can forget about this
if
one.
that's the hiccup, then that's okay. Unless, of course, Matheson keeps throwing 180 games, then you got a different problem.
Sure.
So, Brian, I'm going to take a little tour of the bowling alley right now and grab some scores from other bowlers that are on our potential leaderboard, just in case anybody throws something big and gets back in contention. So I'll go do that and be back to see you in a few bits.
So again, thanks for joining us. We're approaching 3 o'clock here at Lucky Strike Lanes in Mansfield, Connecticut. I'm Brian Ewing, joined this year by Pat Rufo. Thanks for watching Duckpin TV. Feel free, if you've jumped on the stream, to share the link, let your friends and fellow Duckpin fans know that we are live, bringing you the conclusion of this year's Eastern Classic. Just to update you here, we've got a little bit of a skeleton crew, as I'm sure you've heard if you've been listening along. So Pat is off trying to collect some scores to make sure our leaderboard is as up to date as possible. But we know a couple of things, that Jimmy Mulvihill, after Game 9, will be at the top of our leaderboard. He's headed into the 160 or 170 range. Wayne Matheson, we suspect, might be jumping on to the top 4 leaderboard. We watched him on lane 1 roll a triple in the middle of this game. He has 164 in frame 9 currently. So he's headed into the 170s or greater. Matheson rolled 310 to start the day. All right, this is his 3rd game now. So he's in the 480 range. He might be approaching 500 depending on how this final frame of game number 9 goes for him. And Wayne is there. You can just see him on the left of your screen. You just grabbed his ball, and he's getting ready to roll on lane 2. We've also been tracking John Green. He rolled 931 in his first block. Today started with 169, 139, and really struggled in game 9, 117. Nothing seemed to go right for him. He was off the head pin a couple times to start the game, went through the head pin, left some splits. He did what he could to get to 117. Matheson up now on lane 2, far left of your screen. Here he goes. And he goes through the middle. So if he's able to grab a 10 this frame, he'll be at 174. That'll bring him into the 480s for his first 3 games today. And right through the middle again. So we'll be waiting on an update for Jimmy Mulvihill shortly. Looks like he's wrapping up his game at the other end of the bowling center. Wayne Matheson just completes his game here, 173, which brings him to 1351 for 9 games.
Give you a quick update, Brian.
Average of
Jimmy Mulvihill just pulled a 182 game.
1. So
So
he just jumps
made up a
onto.
significant amount of pins on Johnny Green on that game.
So Matheson just jumped onto the top 4 leaderboard there, knocking John Blaze off. Matheson 150.1 average there. So Pat's got some updates here for us.
I couldn't get any. All I got was Jimmy so far. The scores are very difficult to come by. The people are hanging on to them like they're gold. So I'm going to go try one more time to grab some sheets. Jimmy Mulva had a 182. Going to go ask a couple of guys down below, see if we can get Steve Dreyer's score, Billy Thomas's score.
So as we suspected, Jimmy Mulvihill, 133.
Steve Dreyer is at 125 plus a hit on his last ball of his 9th game, so he will be hopefully in the 130s. And that was a jinx if you've ever seen one, so he goes off the side for 2. That's a 127. As soon as I said it, Brian, I knew I shouldn't have said it. Apologize to Steve for that.
So Mulvihill's opened up a fairly significant lead over John Green. You're going to make that 48 pins, if my math is right.
That is correct. 48 pins.
Okay.
3 games to go. That's a big chunk of real estate.
Yeah. But Matheson, on the other hand, right?
Well,
he says I've cut the lead to just 53.
Right.
I'm on the upward trajectory,
Right.
whereas
So-
John Green is looking at this a little more of
Basically, in
Negative
Matheson's
side.
mind, he started the day 63 pins behind. So he's made up 12, but it's a different leader now he's chasing. So that's the beauty of this tournament because it's happening across the whole center, and you just don't know who's going to throw that monster game and jump right ahead of you. Basically, how Wayne won it last year. He just came out of nowhere.
All right, Pat. We're going to take a quick break here while they're transitioning between games. So just give us a couple of minutes to collect some scores. Again, working with a skeleton crew here. It's just Pat and I trying to keep all the stats, do all the commentary, and keep you abreast of what is happening across this 20-lane center this afternoon. So stick with us. Take a moment, grab a snack, settle in for hopefully an exciting conclusion of the 2024 Eastern Classic. While you're at it, why don't you tell your friends and Duckpin fans that the stream is live and they should tune in to see that exciting conclusion. So again, we'll be right back in just a couple minutes. Sit tight. We'll be with you shortly. All right. Thanks for sticking with us, folks. Hope you were able to grab a snack, grab a drink, and settle in with us to watch the finale of the 2024 Eastern Classic here at Lucky Strike Lanes in Mansfield, Connecticut. If you've just joined us recently and you're new to Duckpin bowling, this is a 12-game event where you bowl 6 games, and then you come back at a later time and you bowl another 6 games. High score over 12 games wins. Right now, it looks like we have a 4-way battle for the top spot this year. Things have kind of narrowed them down to the final 4. John Blaze is in the clubhouse, the only one of those 4 who has rolled all 12 games. He rolled 1,791 for a 149.3 average. We have 3 other bowlers on this group who are bowling their final 3 games as we speak. Jimmy Mulvihill, 1404, John Green, 1356, and Wayne Matheson, the defending champion, at 1351. So Mulvihill has the distinct advantage by around 50 pins. Essentially, he basically just has to average around 130.
130 will get him there, yeah.
And that'll get him past John Blaze, so long as Green and Matheson don't get him in the end.
With 3 games to go and a 50-pin advantage, he has a lot of wiggle room. The other guys basically can't afford any more hiccups. This is a very interesting occurrence at the Eastern this weekend, Brian. Some gentlemen came down from across the northern border, and they joined us on Friday evening and bowled 6 games, just like you and I did. And they said, well, it's raining on Saturday. Let's just go back and bowl 12 more. So they bowled 2 shifts of the Eastern in the same weekend.
Yeah, but of course there's a kind of a tax, if you will.
A little bit, I'd say. Double the entry fee. Oh, you want to bowl again? Yeah, okay. You pay twice as much.
Not just twice as much because you've bowled 2 times.
No. You pay, you bowl twice and pay for 3.
Yes, exactly. That's because this is an open event, of course, and those are the rules.
That's it. They can do what they want. I've heard of, I believe the first ones in my knowledge that did that were Charlie Craw and Mark Parker. They came down, but they came down 2 separate weekends.
Right.
And that's a bit different than bowling essentially 24 games in 36 hours or something. It was a very short amount of time. Started at 7:30 on Friday night, ended at 1:30 on Sunday. So in less than 48 hours, they bowled 24 bowling strings.
That's a feat in itself.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. So let's try to get you updated here, give you the lay of the land. We've moved our cameras so that we can capture Jimmy Mulvihill. His pair of lanes is currently experiencing a little bit of a technical issue with the ball return. You can see that's why that gentleman is on the ground there. I believe that's Tom Dominic right there, actually.
One of the tournament directors.
Yes.
Helping out with the, any which way.
So Mulvihill there's on 15 and 16. We also have Wayne Matheson kind of in front of where Pat and I are set up. He's on lanes 3 and 4. Looks like he started with a 9 in his first box, and that's as far as he's gotten thus far. Then we have John Green on lanes 5 and 6, I believe. John Green. I believe he has 17 through 2. I saw him just a few moments ago put one right in the pocket, and he got left with the 5, 7, 10. It was pretty unbelievable, to be honest. But that's the game here, right? You can put it in the pocket as perfectly as you think, and sometimes it doesn't go your way. You've kind of got to problem solve and figure out a way to prevent that from happening the next time.
It's like John Green is at 17 after 2, Brian.
Yep. So we've only got one camera this year, again, Skeleton Crew, but we'll give you an audio updates. Try to paint a little picture in your head here of what's happening everywhere else. Of course, we've moved the camera over to see Jimmy Mulvihill, and
They broke the lane.
he's yet to appear on your screen just yet. But they have started the first game. I think he's through one frame. We'll try and get that score to you momentarily.
Wayne Matheson just 9-1. He had a beautiful first ball, dropped 9, made the 5-pin. So he's on the mark board for the game 10. Mulvihill has been stringing strikes together down on that end of the bowling alley, and he does that one more time. If he throws another 3-bagger or a 4-bagger, it's going to put a pretty significant gap on him and his competition. Clearly move him past the leader in the clubhouse and open up a pretty decent lead on the two bowlers that we right now think are going to contend with him to try to win this 94th annual Eastern Classic. I don't know if Nick Lloyd's on his way home listening, but him and I had a discussion earlier this weekend, and we started talking about things like, has there ever been a tie? What would happen if there was a tie? What was the largest margin of victory? What was the closest tournament in terms of margin of victory? And didn't take a lot of research, Brian. We found some interesting answers. Way back in 1942, the Eastern Classic was then a 15-game tournament, 3 5-game blocks. So you had to bowl 3 separate blocks of 5 games. And 2 gentlemen tied for that tournament with a score of 2,021, which clearly that makes it the closest tournament ever because they tied. There was one other tournament in 1992 where a bowler won by a mere 2 pins. And the very following year, 1993, was when Scott Wolgamuth came up here to Lucky Strike and just destroyed the alleys, burying the competition by shooting 2,066 for 12 games. And I was thinking about that. He did that in 12 games and had 40 more pins than the guys that bowled 15 games, which is just mind-boggling. He won that tournament by well over 150 pins, and that was clearly the largest margin of victory ever in the Eastern Classic, and it really wasn't even close. He didn't even need to bowl all 12 games. But to think that he did what 2 guys couldn't do in 15 games in 12, you start going, well, something had to be different. And, of course, in 1942, the pins that they were shooting at were all wooden and clearly did not fly around like these plastic pins that we have today. So that made a huge difference in the scoring averages, made a huge difference in spare attempts, changed the whole game. You see Jimmy Mulvihill about to throw in his 4th box of his 10th game. He is currently sitting at 39 plus a ball in the 3rd. He takes his time getting up there. I tell you, he really gets himself mentally prepared, and then he just fires a missile, usually lands about halfway down. I would never want to see him in a candlepin house. He would probably throw it through the backstop. Here you see Mulvihill with his very deliberate approach, and then see the ball land about halfway down, and then all the pins just disappear. Doesn't look like he's flinching right now. Off to a really good start in his 10th game.
So I think if all of our math and our eyes are correct, we have Wayne Matheson through 3 frames with 31. We have John Green through 4 with 47 plus, and Jimmy Mulvihill through 4 with 59 plus. John Blaze, of course, in the clubhouse already, finished his 12 games. And these are the 4 bowlers that we believe are in contention for the 2024 Eastern Classic title. Of course, we have our camera on Jimmy Mulvihill. At the moment, he has a significant lead over Matheson, Green, and Blaze, at least by average. We're looking at 50 pins, roughly, that Matheson and Green have to catch up.
I mean, that's a
3
lot
games.
of pins in 3 games when a guy is averaging 156. That's where you really have to. You need something special. If Jimmy continues to average even in the high 140s, those guys are going to have to go 460, 470 to have a chance.
Yeah, we can certainly see it happen. We saw Jimmy Mulvihill this morning string a number of strikes together, and that's what created the lead.
Right.
So it could just as easily disappear
Sure.
if we see Matheson or Green do something similar.
Well, he did come out of the gates this afternoon with a 476. So it's there.
And off camera, again, we saw Wayne Matheson put one in there. Boy, the pins really fly off the plate when Matheson throws it, except in this case for the
Six
pin, yep. Which he hits just a little right of center.
Yeah, not he didn't hit that as flush as his other ones, but very, very nicely done on the 1-pinner. So, Brian, we're going to be in a dilemma if Wayne or John decide to make a run, because the bowlers that we're trying to follow are as far apart in the bowling alley as we could possibly ask them to be, almost. So we'll do our best to give you it's like listening to a baseball game on the radio. You know, you don't get to see it, but we try to describe it well enough for you so that you get the feel for it.
What you just saw there, though, was Jimmy Mulvihill.
That's another
Crushed
double.
one in the pocket.
Yeah, he throws a lot of strikes, boys. He's locked and loaded right now and not looking in the rearview mirror at all.
Yeah, we're talking about Matheson and Green having to make up some pins, but if Mulvihill continues at this
It won't
pace
matter.
for this game, he might have a 100-pin lead going into the final 2 games.
He could have a significant, or almost, well, it would certainly put him in a position where John Blaze is almost eliminated before the 11th game is over. And I don't mean eliminated. I mean, you come in second in this tournament. That's an incredible accomplishment. But I'm sure if John were here to talk about it right now, he would tell you about 50 or 60 pins that he let go during the course of the weekend. When you're that good, you do tend to throw a lot of good first balls and have opportunities at marks more often than the 120 or 130 bowler. Guys that average in the 40s do it for a reason. They're very consistent. They don't miss a lot of spares, but they're also more difficult. I don't want to say difficult, but they're more critical of themselves when they don't make every shot. Matheson right there off camera. Nice first ball, not nice result. Staring at the 5-7 and not happy about it. Not sure if they know what's going on down the other end, but the more Jimmy tends to string those strikes together, it'll get louder. Remember last game, Jimmy had a 4-bagger, and this game he's already thrown a double early.
So again, if you've just joined us, it looks like our viewership numbers have jumped pretty significantly in the past 5 or 10 minutes. So welcome to Lucky Strike Lanes, Mansfield, Connecticut, very near the University of Connecticut. So we call this the basketball capital of the world around here. But this weekend, it is the home of Duckpin Bowling's most prestigious and historic tournament, the Frank Barber Memorial Eastern Classic. This event started in 1931, and this is the 94th running of the event. 94 consecutive years, if you're doing the math there. It's a 12-game event. You bowl 6 games in one block. You come back at a later time to bowl another 6 games to make 12. High score for 12 games wins. It's as simple as that. We're tracking 4 bowlers, as this is the final group. They have 2 more games to complete after this one. So make that 3 games to add into the record book. We think there are 4 bowlers who are in contention for this year's title. John Blaze, he's already completed his games. 1791 in the clubhouse with 12. Jimmy Mulvihill, he's on your screen right now, setting himself. He's on a double. Puts it in there. Very heavy for 7. Still a pretty good fill on the double.
So dangerously close to blowing through the middle of that one, but still a decent count on the double.
So that'll bring him to 76 through 4, and as you can see, that puts him at a significantly better pace than the 2 bowlers that are trying to catch him.
And he just threw 8 more on top of it, so
94 through 5 by my count. And 9 there will put him at 103 through 6. So we were talking about putting John Blaze in the rearview mirror, kind of out of contention, out of sight, out of mind. He's on pace, Mulvihill right now, for 140. If he gets to 50 or 60, I think that shuts the door on Blaze's opportunity. Wayne Matheson off camera. He put one pretty heavy into the 1-2 pocket. Just enough to leave the 2, 3, 4, 7.
You never want to say consecutive pins in duck pins except the 1, 2, 3. That's about the only one you ever want to say that you leave. Otherwise, it's not a good shot.
So he put it in there. He was definitely trying to convert this spare. He's got the ball. If you know Wayne, he throws it kind of left to right with some left to right spin. This one hit the 4 pin, pretty solid, but it just barely went by the 2. He ends this frame with a 9, so that puts him at 58 through 5, and he's really fallen off the pace here.
Yeah, it's, well, and I just misspoke, Brian. I mean, anyone that knows the game of duck pins, if you're out there listening and you heard me say, you know, you threw a pretty good ball and left the 1, 2, 3. You didn't throw a good ball if you leave the 1, 2, 3. we just wanted to. It's just not a bad break if you leave the 1, 2, 3. Any other consecutive pins though, you don't want to see 2, 3, 4. You don't want to see 7, 8, 9. You don't want to see 8, 9, 10. Usually consecutive pins are not makeable spares.
John Green, we just saw him convert the 7-pin for a spare. So he's at 110 plus through 8. Again, he's fallen just off the pace here. Started the day really well. He started with 169, 139, but then it was 117 in a game that he just could not get things going. And it looks like this game will be a bit of a rebound, but it's still in the balance. Still in the balance here with 2 frames to go. So we don't want to speak too soon yet, but Jimmy Mulvihill looks like the clear favorite with just over 2 games remaining in the 2024 Eastern Classic.
Yeah, he's already averaging 156, which is a very, very good average. We always look at that 150 mark as the that 1800 number is usually pretty big. But also we've been talking over the weekend, Brian, and after that top 2, top 3, top 5 tier, it gets down into the 1700s really fast. So that 1800 is a winning score, but top 10 is usually in the low 1700s, which is it's a significant drop off from the top.
And I believe last year 10th place was in the 1730 to 1740 range. So we can bet that Matheson and Green will probably eclipse that mark. So they're probably headed for a top 10 finish. I can almost say that with certainty, barring a catastrophe in the last 2 games. Matheson up, puts it in there, left to right, break, right through the 1-5, the 1-5-8 to be exact.
John Green left a little mini split and converted it. I believe he had the 5 and the 7. No, he had 2 pins and then a gap and then the 7 pin. So I was just looking at it from over on the side, but he split the 2 pins and made all 3. I don't know where Jimmy Mulvihill went. He should be stepping up onto the alley shortly here.
Yeah, there he is.
Try to see if he can start it back up after that last box. And that was kind of good. I don't think there's anything left on that one. Yeah, Jimmy Mulvihill's putting a big old stomp on this right now. Looking to actually improve his 156 average.
Yeah, this is highly unusual, Pat. Usually
The
on the
average
final
is
Sunday
dropping.
of the Eastern Classic, it's a matter of can you hold on
Right.
to get to that
We
that
haven't seen
1800
someone
mark.
do this in a few years. We haven't seen somebody just step on the gas and go.
Yeah, it's been mostly every year. It's been a bit of a battle, at least between 2 or 3 bowlers, kind of neck and neck, or at least close enough that it's interesting. Mulvihill is just, like you said, kind of running away with things.
Well, you think right now, he throws another double right now. He can fall asleep for the last 2 games and still hang on. He just got to keep the ball in the alley at that point. He could go 180 here. He's already thrown a 476 and looking at another 160, 170 game. So he's throwing lights out right now.
So again, welcome into the Jimmy Mulvihill show this afternoon. 14:04 through 9 games. He's on pace to continue, maintain, or maybe even improve his 156 average thus far for the tournament. John Green, who's up on lane 5 at the moment, he put one right in the 1-3 pocket. Pins just left the lane very quickly, pushed him into the backstop, left the 5-7. That's happened to him quite a few times these past couple games, putting balls very heavy, very strong, with a lot of rotation into the pocket, and still splits. Where? Wayne Matheson just got up on lane
I think
number
Wayne
3.
Matheson might have just thrown a strike because they all left in a hurry. Unless he threw a gutter ball in the first ball, that was a bomb.
Meanwhile, Mulvihill continues chugging right along there, picking up the 10-pin for a spare.
Yeah, Mulvihill has already thrown. Mulvihill has 2 boxes to gain on John Green, who threw a pretty decent 145 game. And he's not going to gain anything with that. He's going to actually lose some ground.
Yeah, amazing to say that. John Green, 15.01 by our count through 10 games, a 150 average.
No, he's on pace for normally 1,800 gets you in the conversation, but right now, Mulvihill is looking into the 1850-60 range. Well, do the math. If he goes 156, 6 times 12 is 72, so he'll be at 1872. If he averages 156, he's up better. He could be better than that.
Yeah, really incredible. So Wayne Matheson is our defending champion. He's off camera here, but he had 1351 through 9. Struggled a bit in game number 10. He's been cutting through the middle quite a bit, actually. That's probably the number one reason for his lower score this game. But he's on a strike, and he's about to take the lanes. He's just grabbing his ball and setting himself on lane 4 now.
So the score for Jimmy Mulvihill, we just verified, that is the correct score. So he is 53 pins above his box with a load and 2 more boxes to go. You know, the way he's throwing the ball, that could end up being another 180 game. He had a 199 and a 173 yesterday for his high games. He just threw a 182, and he's on pace to throw another 180 game right there. So you put 4 games like that in a 12-game set, and you are in pretty good shape. 4 times 180 is 720 for 4.
Yeah.
That's a crazy, crazy number.
Yeah, you know, a lot of times at the Eastern we talk about avoiding the really low game, the catastrophic game that'll bring you out of it. But at the same time, you need at least 1 or 2 of those really big games to put your name in the hat.
Well, you look at Jimmy's scores. His low game of the tournament through 9 games is 121. Well, make it through 10 because he's beyond that now. So, I mean, that's pretty decent bowling.
All right, there's Jimmy Mulvihill approaching the line.
Oh my God, it's not even fair the way those pins are flying right down there.
Yeah, when you talk about being in the zone, being in a flow state, Jimmy Mulvihill is there.
Yeah, he's locked and loaded. He's on the dead nuts on the pocket. He had that one little glitch on the double, but he was on the head pin and just a little heavy. But right now, he's potentially could throw a 200 game, which we've only had one of in the entire tournament. Colton Gu, I believe, had a 200 game, and that was yesterday.
Yeah, we were just talking about achieving a really high score in one game as a way to propel yourself into the conversation. John Blaze, he had a 191 actually to start the tournament, game one for him, but he never went above 162 after that.
But never went below 119.
Right.
It one glitch, really, the whole tournament.
And then we're looking at John Green, 181, 182 in his first block yesterday. Jimmy Mulvihill, 199. Wayne Matheson, interestingly, 173. So he hasn't really had as big a game as the other three bowlers that we're talking about as potential champions. Well, Pat, unfortunately, if John's watching, I think we could probably say that John is not going to have a chance at this one.
Jimmy's only, gosh, he's got 2 games to go, and he's only a couple hundred pins behind. I mean, he could throw 2 110 games and I think get by that. He's looking at being about 1,600 after 10, possibly.
Yeah, so this is Mulvihill's to lose. Really just in the zone. Matheson and Green with an outside chance. Matheson somehow, while we were doing some calculations, threw a double. He's up on lane 3, setting himself. 1, 2, 3, 4, slides, puts it into the 1-3.
Ooh.
His ball cuts from left to right, so it hit the 1-3 pocket, kind of going away, and he leaves 3 in the left-hand corner.
He left the 4-7-8. The old triangle in the corner. Duckpin bowlers say there's multiple ways to miss this. He didn't pick one of them, thankfully.
Yep, he put that kind of a little left to center, a little on the heavier side, but it still carried for him. So that brings him to, by our count, 124 in the 9th. 134 plus in the 10th as Jimmy Mulvihill sets himself for the final frame of his 10th game as well. Matheson, that was a wild one off the side. Somehow managed 8.
He'll take that 8 all day. So, but still, I mean, unfortunately,
Mulvihill, again, another double.
Mulvihill's done. We are at the end of game 10, and Jimmy Mulvihill is just running away, on pace to throw a 200 game this game.
At this pace, he might not need to bowl the last game. He continues to string him along like this.
He told me to come down there and put the camera on him, but I thought he was kidding, but he wasn't. So Mulvihill with a strike here is going to be looking at a 200 game with a 7 load. That one he got off the side a little bit, but might have been the worst ball he's thrown since this game started. It's 6 and 4 in the corner.
Yep, so he's looking at something approaching 180. He's not going to get there, of course. But how close can he get? Oh, sorry, 190 is what I meant to say.
I think 190 is in the ballpark.
Let's call that 188.
Yeah, just a 188 for Jimmy, and just another nail in the coffin for anyone that was thinking about making a run. Mulvihill is now, let's just look at the last 3 games. That's a 531 for the last 3. Anyone knows anything about Duckpin bowling, that's about as good as it gets. You don't see many sets of 3 in the 500s.
Yeah. And so let's just do some quick math here, Pat. This is pretty simple. He's made it simple for us.
Yes, very simple.
He has 1592. John Blaze has 1791 for 12.
Yeah.
With 2 games to go, Mulvihill could roll under 200 pins and pass John Blaze.
That would be highly unlikely.
That is for sure going to happen. John Blaze eliminated from contention. Wayne Matheson, 1493. He is 99 pins behind Jimmy
2
Mulvihill.
games to go. So unless Jimmy throws those two 100 games, which I don't think right now looks at all feasible, Wayne has a big mountain to climb.
Yeah, and just slightly above Wayne, clinging on with his ice pick, is John Green, 1501, 91 pins behind.
Yeah.
That is a huge margin to make up over 2 games.
Yep. Well, again, Mulvihill started the day averaging slightly over 150, 150, say 155, and through the first 4 games has increased a 155 average to almost 160. That is impressive.
We could be looking at a bowler achieving a score of over 1900 this year.
He is in the realm of possibility. He only needs about a 308. He's done that all day, yesterday and today. You look at any 2 consecutive games he's thrown in this tournament, 345, 372, 331. The only one consecutive that he did, it was a 279. It's amazing the string of bowling he's done.
Yeah. So if you are interested in witnessing some really tremendous duckpin bowling, or you know anyone who would love to witness this, get them on the phone, send them the link, tell them Duckpin TV is live here at Lucky Strike Lanes in Mansfield, Connecticut for the 94th Frank Barber Memorial Eastern Classic. If you just joined us, I know some of you have been with us all afternoon, but if you've just joined us, thank you for tuning in. This is duckpin bowling. 3 balls per frame, same lane dimensions as any other type of bowling that you're familiar with. If you're familiar with candlepin bowling or 10-pin bowling, the pins are spaced the same distance apart. The pins are just a little smaller, shorter, and so this is a much more challenging game. Anyone who, over the course of a season, can average over 140, we'd probably consider a professional bowler. Anyone who can average 150 across a season is truly tremendous, right? We're talking about the number 1 bowler in the country most years. And anyone who can average in this tournament 150 over the course of its 12 games has really accomplished a tremendous feat. Jimmy Mulvihill, our current leader, is averaging close to 160. That's him on your screen right there on the right-hand side. He just missed the head pin, cut for 2, but he has really just been so locked in that it's his to lose here at this point. And really, even with a catastrophe in one of the next 2 games, still seems unlikely.
I cannot see him throwing less than 250 right now. I don't know how that would happen, but anything's possible, I suppose. But the way he's been throwing the ball all afternoon, it does not appear to be likely. He comes off of that chop for 2 and salvages a 10 box. So, he just needs a couple of marks each of these next 2 games, and that should secure the victory. After that, it's just a matter of how high does he go.
So we're going to kind of take a quick break here. We've been bringing you some uninterrupted coverage of the Eastern Classic for quite a while. So just give us a moment to take a quick break, get some scores from around the center, and we'll be back in time for Jimmy Mulvihill's next frame. So take a break yourself, grab a drink, grab a snack. We've got about an hour's worth of bowling left here, so you can settle in with us for the conclusion of the 2024 Eastern Classic. Again, we'll be back in just a moment. All right. So welcome back to Duckpin TV's coverage of the 2024 Frank Barber Memorial Eastern Classic. This is a 12-game event, the most prestigious tournament in duckpin bowling. And it's held every year here in Mansfield, Connecticut. We have our eyes on one man at the moment, and that is Jimmy Mulvihill. He has amassed 1,592 pins over 10 games. He's just started his 11th game with a 10, and he is the favorite. This is his tournament to lose at the moment. So the man has been locked in, absolutely locked in today. But the past two frames, he's missed the head pin. He's cut for two to the left, and now this frame to the right. That's a 7 for Mulvihill. So uncharacteristic slow start for him, 17 through 2. In years past, we've had quite the team together to bring you the Eastern Classic. This year, it is just myself, Brian Ewing, and my partner, Pat Rufo. So Pat is out making his way around the center, getting some stories, collecting some scores for us. We're trying to keep you updated with the top 4 leaderboard. And of course, from here on out, we want to bring you, if we can, as long as nothing else crazy around the center happens, every ball that Jimmy Mulvihill has remaining in this tournament.
So I just did a quick sweep of the bowling alley, Brian, and no surprises. Everything that we have in front of you is what's in contention. No one is making a blind run at the leaderboard from way behind at this point.
Yeah, I guess one of the more interesting battles, if you will, is actually between John Green and Wayne Matheson for second place.
Yeah, very. 8 pins separating them, and 2 games to go. We did have a situation, I believe I'm not sure, maybe 2 or 3 years ago, where Colton Gue went back-to-back 200 games, made a huge jump out of nowhere, but doesn't look like, from what we've seen, there's only been 1 200 game thrown in the entire tournament. To expect 2 to happen to the same bowler that threw the 200 game back-to-back games is very unrealistic. But possible because it's Golden Goo.
Sure, and we'll keep our eyes peeled to see if any historic run like that happens.
Sure. I mean, Tommy Miller just almost started the game with a triple. We've had some pretty big scores in this tournament on lanes 1 and 2.
Yeah, one of the things that's really interesting about this tournament in this bowling center, as a matter of fact, as you can see on the camera, it's in the old style, we'll say.
Yeah, it's like walking into a time vault.
Right, so there are no computers calculating
Nope.
scores.
Nope.
Everything is by
The
pen
color
and
scheme.
paper.
The color scheme is 1970 all day, every day. Even the Hosmer Mountain on the side of the wall is in there forever.
Yeah. So, needless to say, the task here of keeping track of 20 lanes of action is quite an impossible task.
It's hard for 6 of us to do it. For 2 of us, it's like it is impossible. There's no way we could give you anywhere near the amount of updates and commentary and try to keep track of more than what we're doing.
So with that said, that's why we're trying to focus in on the leader, Jimmy Mulvihill. He's there on lane 17 and 18. He's to the right of your screen right now, just stepping on the approach. Looks like he's going to let the bowler to his right complete her frame first. Might want to take a little extra time here, right? He's had 2
Couple chops off the side. Recovered well. Didn't have a disastrous box. Just get that ball right back where he was, and 9 or better. That's 9 or better.
Is it? I see
there's
the
another
7, 8, 10
geez.
there.
Those aren't deadwood. Those are actually pins standing up down there. Oh, the whole back row almost.
Yeah. And just to give you a little insight into our vantage point, we are actually behind lanes 1 and 2. Mulvihill is on lane 17 and 18. So it's possible for him to get further away, but not by much. So we're doing our best here for you. Jimmy Mulvihill just had a pin fall on him as it was trying to reset. So there'll be a little bit of a wait here as that pin is set up for him once again. One really interesting thing about this place, of course, is that the pin setters are original to when this center was built in the 70s. There's no mechanism to just tell the machine via computer to set up
Nothing.
pins, blah, 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 blah.
Everything is done by hand. If something goes wrong, I should say.
Yeah, of course. Not Duckpin related, but something came up in my feed recently, this week, as a matter of fact, about a young woman in Maine who somehow managed to buy a candlepin center that was going to be closing a couple of years ago, as we see Mulvihill get the 7 pin. And I believe it's a 12-lane center. It has pin setters that were a prototype for that sport installed sometime in the late 40s, I believe the story said. And she is the sole employee at that center.
Wow.
Maintaining the machines, running the front desk, cooking, perhaps.
Good Lord.
So just kind of to put some things in perspective for you here, these machines are great machines. They run really well, but they require a great deal of maintenance, as I'm sure many of the people watching who are familiar with our sport know. But if you're new to the game, really, really interesting story about the Duckpin pin setter. The Duckpin game really had the first working pin setter. It just couldn't get to market fast enough. So there's a alternate reality, Pat, where duckpin bowling could have been the predominant version of the sport and spread across the country, across the world. But instead, it's remained in just small pockets of the eastern United States, from Massachusetts down to Virginia these days.
Yeah.
At one time, we could claim the entire eastern seaboard, and
With the advent of the string machines, maybe there's a revival. It'd be a different game, but I mean similar. I've bowled the string duck pins a couple of times in Pennsylvania, and it's a challenge. The spare shots are a little trickier.
yeah, that's certainly a debate that we're having in our game. I think of whether it's worth it to switch over to string pin setters. You know, they've done it in the 5-pin game, but that's a little bit different. They've done it in the rubber band duck game. That's a little different than ours as well. But that's the only machine that is available on the market right now is the string duck pin machine. So if anybody out there is interested in opening a new duck pin center, that's the only option. That's what they have to go with. So we've kind of gotten into some different topics here because our leader, Jimmy Mulvihill, is running away with this thing. A little hiccup here at the beginning of game 11 to the left and right of center for 2 on his first balls in frames 1 and 2. Left a 3-pin split in frame 3, so he just has 26.
Another bad split there. Oof. You know what? This is bound to happen. However, he has a large margin of error.
And that's the thing he has to tell himself right
Right.
now, right? Is, yeah, all right, it happens.
Whatever.
But I have such a big lead, it's not a big deal. I could even do this for 3 or 4 more frames and I'd be fine.
Listen, he gets 2 marks a game going out right now, and nobody's catching him. So it's really a matter of just getting back to that position where he is. Well, he made that spare.
It was a 10. It was a 10.
Oh, he made it $10. I'm
Yep.
sorry.
So, Pat, why don't we make our way around the center a little bit and try to give you some updates on what we're seeing in front of us. We were watching Wayne Matheson. Looks like he has 62. Oh, no, they're erasing the score.
Yeah,
So somebody made a math error there. It's like watching the teacher work on the projector at school here.
58.
58 through 5 for Wayne Matheson. We were also tracking John Green. He has 53 through 5. So both of them have fallen well off the pace.
That's not.
But
not
we talked about how they're really playing against each other right now. So
correct.
It
it's a good competitive match for that spot.
They just have to make sure that they surpass John Blaze's 1791.
Right. You know, second and third place would not be too shabby.
And Pat, I think this is this Tommy Miller?
Tommy Miller's having a good game right here. He's all marks through 6 at a 102 in the 5th, so he's got that magic 200 number in his sights. Started the game with a double, and now has had 4 consecutive spares. Tommy is one of the bowlers that had a 190 game earlier in the tournament. He's a tall bowler with a fluorescent green cap.
Yeah, and kind of a lull in the action here as we wait to watch Jimmy Mulvihill complete his tournament.
Tommy Miller just a tad light on the head pin there. He dropped 6. Should be having Jimmy Mulvihill appear up on the screen momentarily.
Now we're talking about that nice game in progress for Tommy Miller. 869 for his first six. Started with 120, 130, 135 today. So that gives him just under a 140 average. All right, it kind of puts it in perspective for you on.
Yeah, through 10 games, that's a 120 pin difference. I'm sorry, 200 pin difference.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, a lot of people are going to be saying, "Oh, yeah, I had a pretty good weekend."
Yeah, it's okay.
And then they compare their score to Mulvihill's here, and they're going to say, "Oh, maybe not."
Yeah, not as good as I thought. I'm gonna make a bold statement here. Say Mulvihill's gonna flush one. Got nobody around him bowling right now. It's all by himself. All right, so,
Light in the pocket.
He didn't. All right, didn't catch the bad break. He's got a chance to make a spare here.
Yeah, you're just saying that nobody around him wanted to bowl at the same time, and that kind of happens when
It's 6 lanes of nobody on the lane.
when you have a bowler that's bowling so well and is bowling for the title.
Yeah, they know.
Things around him kind of
Everybody knows.
slow down. Yeah.
Big shot here for. Well, I mean, it's an important shot for Jimmy. Just get his mindset. And he rips 2 off the side. That's one of those ways to miss that shot. But again, putting things in perspective, Green and Matheson are not running away. I mean, they may have made up 10 pins, if that. Jimmy's just got to get his pins now, make sure he covers 10 like that, and put together a big second half, and then just cruise to the finals after that. He'll bounce out of this.
Yeah. So you talk about Green and Matheson trying to make up some pins here. Matheson had 58 through 5, so he made up 12 pins. Green had 53, so he made up 7 pins.
Yeah, that's not gonna cut it. If they had started off hot this game, they could have made a significant dent. Because Jimmy hasn't been this far under his box in the entire tournament, probably.
Right. If you're Green or Matheson, I don't know if either of them are keeping track at all, but if you see Jimmy doing this, you might feel a little more pressure on yourself to say, "Oh, like this is it. I can do it.
Here's
I
my
can
chance."
Catch up.
Because initially, you think about it, you go into a 2-game match and spot somebody 100 pins. You're not going to win that very often.
Yeah. If we had some, there must be a statistician, a math person out there that could give us the odds on that.
Yeah, the odds of making up 100. It'd be one thing if you would, just random people off the street. But these are professional duckpin bowlers that it's 100 pins, and you got 20 boxes, so you got to make up 5 pins every box, not easy to do.
Right. That does put it into perspective. 5 pins per box. So here's Mulvihill, lane 17, setting himself, looking to turn this game around. Cuts to the right once again. He has not hit the pocket really squarely at all this game through 6 frames.
And the unfortunate part is he has to stay on this pair. So if it's in his head that he can't bowl on this pair, that could play. But again, even with a 100 game, this game, he still only needs another 100 to go by Blaze. And the other 2 guys got to go crazy real fast, like within the next 5 boxes. Because Mulvihill's opened 6 in a row. That's not going to continue.
Yeah, it's certainly not the lanes. He hasn't really.
Oh no, he hasn't thrown a good ball.
Yeah.
I'm just saying in his head, if he has to stay on that pair, he hasn't been able to find the pocket on that pair. Oh, nothing. I don't think he's thrown a ball where he thought he had it. He had a bomb. Maybe that one where he left the back row a little bit was.
It was better.
It was a better ball, but it wasn't a great ball.
Yeah. Yep. So just looking around here, I'm looking up at Wayne Matheson's score. He filled a spare and a 6, so he has 76 through 6. So that, if this trend continued, right, he would have made up 23 pins on Mulvihill. There's 3 or 4 frames to go, so he could double that difference, right? You could make up 50 pins perhaps this game. But actually it looks like Matheson just opened in the 7th, so that would be 85 for him through 7. John Green was the other bowler in contention here, probably in contention for second place at this point. He has 82 through 8. So Matheson, Green have really fallen out of contention, I think we would say at this point. Matheson probably has the best opportunity. But again, that's a very slim opportunity.
Yeah, John Green's at 82 through 8, so.
If I'm John Blaze right now, I'm saying I might finish second.
I mean, they're not making a run at him. If it wasn't for Jimmy having such a incredible run of 10 games, Johnny would be looking pretty good considering where Jimmy's at this game.
All right, so here's Mulvihill grabbing his ball, toweling it off. Trying to put himself in the right mindset, fix his mechanics to really put this thing to bed here. But he is 7 pins below his frame. You never want to see that as a duckpin bowler. If it's a 6 frame, you want to have at least 60.
Got that one out, and there's the 5-7. So even on a decent hit there, he's not catching any breaks.
That was by far the best first ball he's thrown in this game. Really unlucky to leave this split. He goes for it. Doesn't catch it, though.
Just got to not get frustrated at this point. Just get through it. Make sure you get through it and come back and one box at a time at this point.
So that's 62 through 7.
The only chance Wayne or John had was to make a run this game, and neither of them are seemingly doing it.
Yeah, and for Mulvihill at this point, I think we talked about him just needing 200 pins over his last 2 games to pass John Blaze, our leader in the clubhouse. Mulvihill is not on pace to do that. But we've got to say, a bowler of his caliber, it's got to be very unlikely that he has back-to-back games as poor as this one is shaping up to be. But still, it might make things
Big
a little more
strike
interesting
there off
here.
camera for Wayne Matheson. That puts him at looks like a 105 in the 95 in the 8th. He's got a strike up. So potentially Matheson strikes out for a 175, and we changed the conversation significantly. Matheson is 85 in the seventh with a strike up in the eighth. Jimmy Mulvihill trying to right the ship. And that's a big ball right there. He leaves the just the 10 pin. Big shot right here now. He's got to get his focus, get himself a mark, and look ahead again to the next. Just keep thinking about the next box because every box off the chart is one less box people can gain on him. But again, Wayne Matheson going to look to make a little bit of a chunk here. And Mulvihill with a big single. As you can hear, I don't know if you can hear all the way down the other end of the alley, but he's getting some mock cheers down there from his friends, so-called friends. He's on the board.
And now our eyes, off camera, of course, are going to turn to Wayne Matheson. On a strike, it's really, he's got to have it here if he wants any opportunity to catch Mulvihill.
He got a little bit, that ball just got a little bit past the head pin where he wanted to be. Caught it, but not quite flush. Leaves himself a little mini split. He's got the 3-5-10. Every shot for him is a must make right now.
Just threw that out there.
Yeah, that got out way to the left.
Hit the 5, and it really never turned back left to right like it usually does.
Yeah, that one was straighter than his normal release.
So that's a 9 for Matheson, and if our math is right, that's 112 through 9.
And again, if Mulvihill has a decent load, Matheson's cut 23 pins, maybe 24 pins into the lead, leaving him 70 more in the next 11 boxes.
Yeah, just want to take this moment to thank all of you for bearing with Pat and I this year. Usually during the Eastern Classic, we have a crew of over 6, 7, 8 people, sometimes double digits for this final shift here. And it's just the two of us today, so we're doing our best to bring you all the pertinent action, the top bowlers on this shift. We're trying to obviously bring you every ball that Jimmy Mulvihill throws. We're trying to give you audio updates, try to paint a picture in your head for what's happening elsewhere. But really, I guess we should thank Jimmy Pat because it's really been his show.
He kind of made our job easy. It was some concern about the distance between the leaders on the lanes as far as coverage, and the way he jumped out of the gates this afternoon, averaging close to 170 something through the first 4 games, made it pretty simple, actually.
Yeah, the really interesting bit right now is probably the battle between Matheson and Green. We've mentioned that already a couple of times.
And Matheson has made a little bit of a move there. He's in some more ground. John Green had a 106 in his 11th game, so that's not going to move him in the right direction.
That actually drops him off our leaderboard, our top 4 leaderboard entirely. Perhaps we've got to get some more data.
Oh, Mulvihill with a rip middle. Dang. Painful. Now he's got to pin out.
Yeah.
The thing is, Brian, if Matheson or Green had put up a big number, it could have gotten interesting. And right now, if Johnny Blaze is sitting there watching, he's like, "Hey, he ain't got me yet. It ain't over yet."
No. And even with that spare,
he's still below his box.
Yeah, 86 through 9.
So he's gonna need like a 109 or 108. But we shouldn't even be saying this. But what the heck?
I mean, what's absolutely crazy is that for any other bowler, a game under 100 would mean certain death in this tournament, right? That's like you've got no chance at winning now.
He could have another game almost just like it and still win. To end the tournament, back-to-back games 11 and 12, go, let's say, 220. You'd think, okay, well, I tried. Too bad I couldn't finish. 220 would do it.
So again, looking at our leaderboard there with the top 4, it's accurate, I think, for the top 3, the top 4.
I'm not sure if Matt Anastasi is
not quite there, right? We were missing some data, of course, like we were saying. Pat and I are the 2 guys rowing the boat this year. So we'll have to, when all groups have completed their 11th game, we'll make a sweep around to kind of give you an update on who should be in that 4th spot. There's just some commotion down near Jimmy Mulvihill's lane. Not quite sure what's happening there.
He might be on our side camera. Brandon Cook. Brandon Cook is a 110 average bowler, and I believe he's bowling on 19 and 20. He just threw an all-mark 200 game. For a 110 average bowler, that is a phenomenal effort.
Incredible. Well done. And on most years, we would have probably had eyes on that and camera on that.
Yes, we would have had Jim Kaufman walking around down there with a phone. We would have seen that last box. That was the loudest noise we've heard in quite some time coming from that end of the bowling alley.
And Mulvihill, hopefully, in his mind, will feed off some of that energy. He'll be wrapping up his 11th game with the final frame in just a moment. He's got a mark to hit 100. Has to mark. And here's Mulvihill.
So that was Matheson finishing up a 131 game. And just got some information from John Biederman. That young man, Brandon Cook. Prior to that 202, Brandon, for his last 3 games, had 267. So he went absolutely crazy through an all-mark 202 game. Jimmy Mulvihill is staring at another very difficult spare opportunity. But that was huge. That's the one right there that he writes. That's it. That gets him above 100, and that, I guarantee you, sets him up for the next game because that was a huge shot.
And hey, Brian Vest, you've completed 12 games, 1,773. If Matheson and Green continue at their pace, then you're going to finish ahead of them.
Yep.
That's 7 there.
So Jimmy finishes with a 103, which in most instances would be disastrous. But in this case, he could do it again and still win. He could shoot less than that, actually.
Let's see. For a tie, he would need
106.
96.
I'm sorry, 96. Yes,
96.
96.
All right. So
If he ties in this tournament, after all the talk I did about, I would be like very unhappy. Nick, I would blame you entirely if you're listening.
all right. So we're getting things set up for the final game here. We'll try and update some scores. We'll get our eyes and ears around the center, but we're going to take a quick break. So you should take a quick break yourself. Run to the bathroom, grab a drink, grab a snack. Tell your friends that Mulvihill needs 96 pins to win. All right. So Pat is out and about grabbing some scores. Welcome back to our live video here. Jimmy Mulvihill is about to begin his 12th and final game. "96 is the number. That's what we believe Mulvihill needs in order to win the 94th Eastern Classic. Well, actually, that would tie him with Blaze, so I guess the number is 97. 97. Here he goes, frame one. Off to a good start. So again, this is the 94th Eastern Classic, run in memory of Frank Barber. It's been held here at Lucky Strike Lanes in Mansfield, Connecticut, for over 50 years now. Prior to that, it was held just down Route 32 in Willimantic, Connecticut, at the old Lucky Strike Lanes. Other than the first year, 1931, it was held within these couple of miles of road here. In fact, the first 8 lanes at this center physically came down the road. And Pat's just returning here with some updates for us. We saw Jimmy Mulvihill, Pat, throw a strike in his first frame. So he's well on his way to that 97 that he needs.
Once he recovered that last game in the 10th box, I knew things were going to be better. Yeah, Matt Anastasi so far today, 177. He had a 108. He had a 126. He had a 147. And then a 151. So, I mean, not terrible. 77.08. No, Mark. I'm in Mark. Mark Anastasi. So he had 77, 108, 126, 147, and 151. So there we see Mulvihill drop down into the 149 range. And as we expected, Brian Vest now has stepped up into third place on average. And we're expecting Green and Matheson to battle it out for what looks like second place right now. But they've got some room. They've got a ways to go to get to Johnny Blaze at this point.
Brian Vest looks like the more realistic target.
Yeah, exactly. Because for Wayne to get to Johnny Blaze, he's going to have to go 170. He's got a ways to go.
And again, for everybody at home, these scores that we're displaying are all unofficial, of course. Like we were discussing earlier, everything here is done by hand. The scorekeeping, as you can see, done by hand. All the calculating entered by hand. So we could certainly be missing a score or two from around the center, but with some degree of confidence, we could say that Mulvihill, Blaze, Vest, Matheson, and Green are likely to be in or around the top 5.
And Jesse Deach is up in there as well. Few pins back of both Green and Matheson. Jesse Deach ended up in the...
and we should mention Sean Leteska, also
yes.
1766.
Leader coming into the today.
So by average, he's slightly behind Matheson and slightly ahead of Green. But Matheson still needs 142 to equal Sean Leteska's score, which is not a given, right? As we've seen with Jimmy Mulvihill here, not a given that your great day is going to continue box after box after box.
So Mulvihill off the side of the head pin there on his strike. He does have another ball counting. He's got at least 4 up there. He may even have the 5 pin tucked in behind that. Hit it heavy, and there was a 5 pin back there. I was afraid of that. But that's a 9 load, so he will take that for now.
So if you want to talk about some of the winning scores from recent years, we should do that at this point, as Mulvihill, we'd say, is likely going to be over 1,800 at this point. Last year's winning score by Wayne Matheson was 1843. 2 years ago, Colby D'Antonis won with 1907. Colton Gu the year before that, 1906. And in 2020, in the September running of the tournament, Chris Kruger, 1807. 2019, Billy Thomas, 1868. Before him, John D'Antonis, 1859. 2017, Dan Richmond, 1837. 2016, Will Rigney, 1833. So as you can see, the winning scores ranged anywhere from that 1833 to 1907 over the past, what is that, 2, 4, 6, 7 years. So where is Mulvihill going to be in that range? He could actually end up being lower than 1833. That's a possibility at the moment. Needs a few more marks to eclipse that level.
45 minutes ago, that didn't seem likely, but no, it's now he's got to get something going to get to that big number. But I'm sure all Jimmy cares about is the 1791. That's right now. That's the focus.
Yeah, what really counts is getting your name up there.
Yep.
Right.
Put your name on the list. Yep.
Nobody, or I'm not going to say nobody, because we have a lot of people in the duckpin bowling community who have very good memories. Mm-hmm. But most people aren't going to remember the score from this year.
No.
They're going to remember the name.
Another spare, so he's another $10, and right now that's enough. $10 are enough. Sure, he's not happy about it, but again, he'll be happy about seeing that name on the flyer next year for sure. Because you know what name they don't put on there, Brian? Second place.
That's
Except
right.
that 1 year in 1942. First and second were tied. You look at it's like a Charles Dinnigan and Sam Zaza. I'd like to meet those guys. But back when it was 15 games, 2021, it's only only two school. Now, I'm sorry, 4 of all the games all the tournaments that were bowled with 15 games. Only 4 of them beat Wolgamouth's 12-game total. That's just amazing.
And of course, this tournament transitioned from a 15 to a 12-game event in 1960.
Look at that. Look, 1638 winning score. Holy moly.
And of course, that was back in the day of wood pins.
Yeah.
Right, so you have to take that into consideration.
And then that gentleman came back and won it again about 7 years later, James Wolfensberger.
Yep, Hagerstown, Maryland's own.
Of course, Robert Dunnick Jr. Back at the he was one of the youngest bowlers at the time to win the Eastern.
Yeah, what's interesting, Pat, is that for a number of years, dating back really to 1981, we had a number of repeat winners.
Yes.
We had Jeff Ferrand, Swede Lavers, Peter Pierce, Scott Wolgamuth, Dennis Cabral, Ron Pelletier.
Ron Pelletier 4 times.
But since 2016 or 2015,
all new
which
names.
is Ron Pelletier's 4th win, we have not had a repeat champion.
Yep. See, we got Rhode Island, Maryland, but now we got a Massachusetts on the board. All right, Jimmy Mulvihill. I'm not gonna say a critical 4th box, but I would say if he drives 10 off the deck here, it's everything else is gravy. And another split. That's a 9-10. Man, he's going to be very thankful for having that large gap between him and second place.
And of course, looking as Mulvihill rolls his second ball here, looking at which shift or which group each of the winners has come from. The past 1, 2, 3 years, we've had a winner come from this final shift. It was only in 2020
Chris
that
Kruger.
Chris Kruger, he bowled on the first weekend.
Yep.
And his score held up.
Barely,
but
it won.
It held up.
Through 3 more shifts. 100 more bowlers.
Yeah, that was really incredible and really exciting too to see a score that big put up really early in the tournament.
Yep.
And then that benchmark is set, and everyone else is chasing after that.
Well, that's why somebody like Johnny Blaze. Let's just say he picked up 20 more pins. That would be a little more pressure on Jimmy right now. That 20 pins would be huge. If he was at 1921 or 1911 versus 1811 versus 1791. That's a big difference when you're in your last game. Now Jimmy's saying, I still got a mark, but right now he's okay without a mark.
Yeah. And back to the conversation about which groups
the
winner has come from. Prior to Chris Kruger, we had Billy Thomas, which came from the final shift. John D'Antonis, the year before him, the final group. Dan Richmond, the final group. Will Rigney, the final group. Ron Pelletier, the final group. Greg Schrafer, final group. Pelletier again.
You got a ways to go before you get
Dunick, Brooks. And beyond that,
I lose.
my memory doesn't exist.
But I'm looking at the names, and I'm going to throw a wild guess out there and say we can go back to almost 1998, 97. I bet you they're all group 5. It'd be hard to imagine they weren't.
Yeah, it's just really interesting.
Just by the names on the list.
It really doesn't matter when you bowl, right? As long
No.
as you put up the high score. But for whatever reason, this final group.
There's Mulvihill with a bomb. That's the one right there.
This final group has developed an aura about it. Everyone wants to get on this final group.
Yeah.
When signups begin, when registration opens, this final group fills up almost instantaneously.
And if you don't sign up right away, you have to. It's the only shift we actually have to put a deposit down to get in it.
Not just a deposit, you have to pay the whole.
Then
fee.
you have to pay. Yeah.
You have to pay the full fee, I believe, in order to.
Because they
hold
don't
your spot.
want. There's been a few people that have had situations where they couldn't finish the tournament. Not to bring up a bad, but it happens. People. I thought the guy I was bowling with this morning, he twisted his knee pretty bad in the first or second game, and I wouldn't have blamed him if he didn't keep bowling because you could tell he was struggling, and stuff happens. The only drama now is really, does Jimmy really right the ship, and does he put together a string here and get up there into the upper 1800s? Looks like right now 1800 is a fairly certain probability. But how high can that get? He's not been having a lot of success on this particular pair. He's been throwing the ball a little bit off the side. He's been just not quite as sharp as he was through the first 4 games this afternoon. It's really difficult to continue to bowl at that pace for that long. He threw together just an amazing stretch of games. To go back-to-back 180 after throwing almost a 300 for the first 2, that's a really good way to get yourself in a position to win this tournament. And he just got away with very, very difficult game, and it didn't really even phase him. He's still averaging 154.1, which is well above the pace he needed. Right now, it's just a matter of, does John Blaze hang on to second? Does Brian Vest hang on to third? Does somebody throw a monster 12th game and move up the board out of nowhere? It's really a matter of, right now, it's basically a matter of who comes in second. I think we are looking at the 2024 champion right now on the screen. He's on a strike and looking to put an exclamation point on this tournament right now, which he absolutely did, but he left the 10 pin. Great ball. Solid 9-drop. Sent the messenger. And now he's just looking to, again, see how high into the 1800s is Jimmy going to be able to get. That's the real question right now. He's clearly in the 1800s. That's not going to help his cause. So this is the single there, but the 9 load is huge.
All right, so not the most exciting Eastern Classic we've ever had in terms of the final group finish. But it's been an interesting one, for sure. Mulvihill, almost certainly our champion in 2024. He's at most probably 2 boxes away from eclipsing John Blaze officially. With a mark, he might even do it in one more frame. He has just passed, or almost just passed, Brian Vest officially. Tied with him, actually, if my math's right. So one more pin will put Mulvihill at worst in second place. Just a formality now, really.
Yeah, he's got 4 boxes to get, 20 pins. Or I don't think I put my money on that. I will bet on that.
Looks like we have Wayne Matheson, four frames in. He is 47, I believe, and he's up in the 5th frame. On lane 6, puts it in there, leaves the 10 pin, put it in the 1-2 pocket. The pin's kind of pushed against the right wall, and a couple run away into the pit, moving in that direction.
Yeah, just to clarify, Brian, Wayne is at 47 through 4. So
He picked up a spare there, so that's 57 plus through 5. He is, I'd say, not on pace to maintain his 147.6 average. So it's possible that Sean Leteska at 1766.
And even Jesse Deach at 1763 could end up in ahead of them. Jesse's looking at 5th place right now if Wayne doesn't go 140. Leteska's locked in. His score's already in the bank. Vest is in the bank. Blaze is in the bank. Mulvihill, for all intents and purposes, it's over. So it's just we're looking at a battle for 5th place at this point. I think 1 through 4 are locked and loaded.
Ooh, that's
Well,
about as good as he could throw it.
threw a really good ball, and you know what? He'll take that right now and all day. Whether he knows it or not, he needs about 10 more pins to win this tournament. Jimmy threw two really good first balls in a row there. That was exactly what he needed. So, see if he can zone in on this one pinner. Yeah, he was all over that one, right in the face. So, basically, he throws a 3-load right now, and he has surpassed John Blaze, I believe. He needs to get this. He needs to get to 96. He is at 88, so I did the math wrong. A 4-load gets him there. Put my money on that.
So, if my eyes have not deceived me, John Green just finished his 12th game with 124, which puts him at a grand total of 1,731, which actually will put him a ways down the list. That might be 10th spot right there, 1731. It's a little hard to tell at the moment, a little early. That might be under 10th place actually, because already in the clubhouse we have Jesse Deach 1763, Colin Dunnick 1753, Brian Ewing, me 1734, and Gary Santora 1727. So our projection at the moment is somewhere around 1740, 1750. That might be 10th place. Of course, we'll try to give you as many of the scores as possible before we go off the air today, as we see Jimmy Mulvihill catch a strike. Got the 5-pin to go on that one. So it's official. Jimmy Mulvihill, your 2024 Eastern Classic champion. He's eclipsed John Blaze's 1,791, which is already in the books. So that'll do it. He can relax and throw these final 2 frames nice and free and loose. Just a matter of how high that winning score will go.
In the end, he had one bad game and came at the perfect time when it really didn't matter. Put himself in a position to be able to get away with it, and good for him. I mean, he bowled great all weekend.
Yep. So again, we're talking about all these final scores, and we're projecting maybe somewhere in the 1740 to 1750 range, being around 10th place. Again, these are all just estimates. In most cases, we could tell you with 98, 99% certainty, but it's just Pat and I this weekend, so we haven't collected every single score from every single bowler. We've just been trying to keep you up to date with what's happening with the potential winners, and we've brought you just about every ball that Jimmy Mulvihill has rolled in his final 3 to 4 games.
Yeah, considering where we were at during the week, I would say we pulled it off, Brian. I think at least people got to watch some bowling. I know there's a bunch of Southerners down there who had some phone calls come in. We get 70 people watching. It's okay by me. I mean, you get some comments. It's all good. Had a good. This is fun to bring, fun to be here and talk about bowling. And again, Jimmy Mulvihill here looking. Well, it doesn't matter. Just I don't know, looking to not fall down, not hurt himself. This is hard to say. He's just probably throw a double. That's my guess. He throws another bomb. I was right.
Oh, we've got Nostradamus in the booth with us this year. Usually it's the other way. Usually you say...
That was not it. I tried to jinx him. I couldn't do it. I'm sorry. I was trying so hard.
I'll never forget the one year where you said, "Oh, here's an easy 2-pinner,"
Yeah.
And you said that about 15 times.
Yeah. Oh my God.
And then every single bowler that you said that about.
Flagged it, chipped it. Oh my God, it was horrible. It was the worst announcer's jinx ever. But I didn't keep it to one person. I spread the wealth, you know. Let's see. Jimmy's looking at 1840, 1850 maybe. Somewhere in that range. Unless he goes really crazy and bombs out. So,
right, which would put him, on par with Wayne Matheson's score from 2023 of 1843. Maybe close to D'Antonis, John D'Antonis, that is, 1859. Dan Richmond, 1837. Will Rigney, 1833. Some of our recent winning scores that are kind of in that range.
Yeah, 1900's a different animal now. The bowling alley is, as you've talked about. This is real. This is the real deal. This is wood. It's original for the most part. 8 lanes.
8 lanes date from 1931,
right?
And the rest of them date from whenever this place opened. I think 71 or 72.
Sure,
somewhere in that range.
So yeah, I mean, even you say 71, 72. That's 53 years. So, we're looking at historic property in here that does and the other thing is you can't get anymore. Once these are gone, they're gone forever. And it's sad. A lot of the bigger establishments both in Connecticut and Rhode Island recently have succumbed to the real estate moguls. Bowling alleys are not as lucrative, I guess, as furniture stores. They're not as lucrative as warehouses. And I say that, but you can't really even blame the owners of these places because it's money they would never be able to see if they maintained it. It'd be nice to say you have enough money to just keep it open just for the heck of it, but if somebody comes up to you and floats you $2 million or $3 million, I'm sorry, you taking it. And it's really the sad part. There's just less and less. Here's Jimmy Mulvihill just looking to put another asterisk up on the board. Well, you get the extra pin there, so that's a nice 18 fill. Potentially a 10 fill on the second one. Gets him close to that 160 number. He had really this afternoon one little stretch where he just lost the head pin for half an hour. But he recovered extremely well. Flags that single. There's that 2-pin. I didn't say it. I was going to say it, but I didn't.
There it is with that 10.
So that's a 1850. It's a nice round number. So the winning score of the 2024 Eastern Classic brought to you by Jimmy Mulvihill. Averaged 155 for the tournament, I believe. Or somewhere around there. I mean, pretty close. And 154.34. 154.32. Sorry. Not bad. Not bad.
Yeah, so Jimmy Mulvihill, first place in the Eastern Classic, 1850. Second place, John Blaze, 1791. We're going to...
Pretty sure Brian Vest has third place.
Project that Brian Vest is going to finish in third, 1773. It doesn't look like Wayne Matheson will catch him. Wayne has 95 through 7.
He needs a triple. Jesse Deach, I'm sorry, Eric, you get it quite. Sean Leteska would secure fourth place, and that would mean Jesse Deach would hang on to fifth. That's a projected number, not anything you can take to the bank.
All right, so I think we're going to kind of call it quits right here. Right, Mulvihill again comes out on top as your 2024 Frank Barbara Memorial Eastern Classic champion. Blaze behind him, and Vest getting the bronze medal. Again, thanks for joining us, Pat. It's been a blast.
Yeah, we
watching
had a good time.
again with you as these bowlers really gave it their best on the lanes in this historic and prestigious tournament.
And let's just say, shout out to Lucky Strike Lanes, because the lanes ran phenomenally all weekend. Very, very few breakdowns, full bowling alley, 20 lanes going nonstop. Great job by Rich Dunnick and his entire staff. I'd like to thank them for their hospitality as usual.
Absolutely. And, of course, we'll thank all of you who tuned in to watch some or all of our coverage this afternoon. We hope it was sufficient for you. Pat and I did our best. And hopefully we'll be back again with you soon. And certainly we'll try to be back again next year with some more extensive coverage. But with that, this is Brian Ewing signing off for Duckpin TV. Enjoy the rest of your weekends. And once again, congratulations, Jimmy Mulvihill, 2024.